I'm here with Tarn and Zach.
Hello.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Sulphur Sam, regular streamer here on Kitfox Games, and a regular streamer of Dwarf Fortress over on my own channel. Just looking at the names in chat. No, everybody knows me. Yeah, everybody here knows me. So hello everybody, nice to see you all. And Tarn and Zach are the developers of Dwarf Fortress. I'm sure you're all aware of that as well. Delighted to have you here. Now, we did have a plan where I was hoping that we could get Tarn and Zach actually play in the fortress, but I had a lot of difficulty getting it to upload. It was stuck on... It was going to take a minute for about 30 minutes. And it was, just couldn't get the file over to them. So I'm going to play. And Tarn and Zach, we shall start with a fortress tour and we'll have a look around. And Tarn and Zach, both of you, I don't know how much time you've got, but feel free to stay as long as you like, or just let me know when it's time to go. Because I can get very sucked into playing a fort. I'm sure you know the feeling.
Yes, it is designed this way.
Yeah. Oh, right. Well, shall we start with a fort tour?
Okay.
Let me just zoom out a little bit. So this is a tiny tower fortress. And the tiny bit being we have a 1x1 embark. Now, the interesting challenge I've found, I love playing 1x1 embarks, but the interesting thing about a 1x1 embark, of course, is that the moment an enemy arrives on the edge of the map, they're on top of you. You don't get any warning that there's goblins arriving halfway across the map. It's they're there. So I've had to look at how do we protect ourselves, because we want happy dwarves. We don't want dwarves that are traumatized with being caught out with battle and stuff. I did cut down all of the trees on the surface. I'm not sure that the elves are going to be too happy about that. That's pretty recent. And we paved it all over as well so that the trees wouldn't grow back.
So
There we go. Yeah.
Is this the original elevation? Is this
Yeah,
ground level?
I thought you were actually down one level, and yeah.
No, this is this is the surface level. This
we
is
go.
the
That's
original
impressive.
surface level. So if we go up, what we've got here, I left some trees in the center of the fortress because we want to see a bit of greenery, and we have a copper tower that goes up and over the top of the trees. Roofed it in so that if we if we get anything flying in, basically we've got our own safe bit of the surface.
Yeah, photosynthesis is in full effect here somehow.
Giant copper can sitting on the...
I guess it's
Sitting on pavement.
Chop down some trees anytime you want to upset the elves.
Yeah, indeed. So upstairs here we've got the butcher and a couple of tanners, and our corpse stockpile, which is currently nice and empty, and our refuse stockpile. This is my bin lid. Underneath there is the dump zone with a crusher for getting rid of the refuse. AKA Sal's copper lightning rod. Indeed. And the patina would be epic. Yeah, can you imagine? Right. Going underground a little. We do have a river. That's where we're getting the water for the fortress. It's coming through here. I'll show you how we're supplying the water for the fortress. And you can see here the 4 ramps that are coming down. So to give us a bit of time to deal with any enemies that walk onto the map, what we've got is some spiraling ramps coming down. So we don't have distance from the edge of the map to the fortress. So what I've done is to make the paths longer for them to get inside. And if we go down a bit further, we get to the tower itself. So the tower is carved out of the rock, and the ramp spiraling down. So we've got 4 helices. We've got the red path, the yellow path, the blue path, and the pink path. I had to colour code them because I kept on getting confused as to what's what. So, showing you we've got guard critters. We're switching over from dogs at the moment to war leopards because why not? So yes, we're phasing out the dogs at the moment. There's just a few old dogs left, and I think they are old as well. Yeah, 16
Oh, wow, yeah.
and another 16. 17-year-old.
Oh.
They've done well surviving on the surface for all that length of time. Right, so let's just have a guided tour of the fortress then. So inside the tower here, and we just had a migrant wave, so there are a bunch of grazing animals. Let me zoom in on this area. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of grazing animals up here. This is where I keep any grazing animals. I don't keep many, but if we got any wool producers, I'd probably hang on to them for a little bit. Most of our wool cloth has come from just buying it from the traders.
Yeah, we just ran into that problem. We hadn't played it for a while, and we ran into that problem where the cloth, the plant cloth, ran out, and all I had was wool cloth. But I forgot that cloth was wool or a plant, and they refused to take it to the shop to make the the rope. Fell for that one again.
Yeah, what I do with I'll show you as we go down. I mitigate against strange moods, and particularly with the cloth. But yeah, heading down into the fortress. So this is where we keep the animals. And we've got 3 troglodytes in cages. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with them yet. But our main our main stock. What's that in there? Oh, I buy animals off the elves when they come and just butcher them. It gives us some exotic meats and things and some different leathers. But yeah, we got some crocodiles. I thought I would breed crocodiles for their meat, but I was a bit surprised by quite how many eggs they lay. I had 1 male crocodile and 2 females that I bought from the elves, and the first hatching was, I think it was 164 baby crocodiles I got in.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, oh my God.
Let's just use the real world numbers. Why not? That's a great idea for a unit-sized creature. Reminds me of when we had the error with the giant mosquitoes where I forgot to change the swarm size from 10,000 or whatever, and they would just kind of crash your computer when they came in on the edge of the map.
The problem I had was trying to, because I had there was crocodiles running all over the fortress. I was trying to get them pastured and get them butchered, and so the first problem was I thought it'd be a good idea to put them in a pasture, but of course the dwarves were, and it's only a small fortress. We've got 68 at the moment. At the time we had less than 50, and about 25 of the dwarfs were constantly engaged in just trying to put crocodiles in pastures. And so then I thought, no, it'd be let's just butcher them, butcher the majority. So I started off trying to butcher in batches, and then it's like, oh God, no, we just need to get rid of them all. So I butchered.
You need to make some alligator boots out of them.
I butchered about, I don't know, it must have been about 70 of them all in one batch. And the dwarfs brought the food down to the food stockpile fine. Most of the food from the butchers got into the food stockpile. But then my cooks went crazy and started cooking up all of these masterpiece crocodile roasts. But there was so much going on with the dwarfs that they didn't get around to moving the food out of the kitchen and into the stockpile. And so the masterpiece roasts rotted, which didn't please my cook, and there was miasma all over the kitchen. It was not good. So I haven't bred the crocodiles since. We got a little bit overwhelmed with the leopards as well. What I'm doing with the leopards at the moment, because we do go through them quite a lot. Having them as guard critters on the near the surface, even just the wild animals coming down the tunnels, means that they get into fights quite a lot. But what I'm doing at the moment is, as the cubs get older, once they reach adulthood, I let them produce another batch of cubs, and then we geld all of the males except the youngest. So it stops them from breeding too quickly, but still keeps the all the leopards are called Spot indeed. Still keeps a little a throughput of leopards. Heading down again. Oh yeah, you can see this is the drain pipe for the water coming up from the river. Going down again. Here I've got my pigtail farms for cloth. And we've got 2 little farms in the corner just for producing the plants for drinks. And then we've got all of the clothing stuff going on here. The fort is only, I'd say, maybe 50% complete. So towards the surface, it's a lot more complete than down the bottom. So yeah, there's plenty. Oops, we skipped one. Plenty of work still to be done. And we'll do some more of that in a little while.
It's the 9,000 meat.
Yeah, indeed. My food has gone crazy. So I've told my cooks to just turn everything into lavish meals, and we'll sell a lot of it off. It'll help to get some of the entities out of my fortress. Hey, Blind's coming in with a raid. Hello, Blind. Nice to see you. Hello, everybody. So,
admire the saltwater crocodile meat.
Yeah, indeed, tons and tons. I mean, this is all from the original 160 babies that we had. There's just so much, and they've put an awful lot of it in pots as well. There's
meat barrel.
I'll just give Blind a shout out. 1 second. Let's give you. There we go. Thank you for the raid, Blind. Lovely to see you. So the water is coming down this drain pipe here, and to keep the critters out of the things that can swim, the dangerous thingies, the water goes through a U-bend. So it comes down here, then goes across there, and then pushes up through this grate here.
There we go. Yep.
Yep.
Necessary.
Indeed. Then, even though the river's flawed on the top, I'm still conscious that things could come in through the river.
They'll find a way.
Yeah.
They'll eventually find a way.
Yeah, indeed.
Hippos and carp and everything.
Then there is another drain pipe that runs down through here that goes down to the well. The fortress I felt was too small to get a working mist generator, so the only thing I'm using the water for at the moment, at least, is just for a well. So yeah, heading down another layer. Here I've got just a stockpile for cloth and leather. And I was saying about how I mitigate the moment I get a bin of leather. I just forbid it. We've got a bin of wool cloth forbidden. There's some pigtail cloth, and somewhere around there's some silk cloth as well. So if I accidentally use all of something in making clothes for the dwarfs, I've still got my strange mood stuff locked away safely. Heading down another level. This is a dining library. So dining room with library. And we put this in, we only finished this off last night. on stream, and it was amazing. As soon as I'd never seen dwarfs sitting at a table reading a book before.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's where they write their books too, I believe.
yeah. So I haven't put any writing materials up for them yet. I think I've got an order in to make some coffers to do, so that we can bring some writing materials up. But the moment I put in the tables, because all this time, my poor dwarfs have been getting by with 4 tables and 4 chairs somewhere in the depths of the fortress that we called a dining room. But so as soon as I put in these tables and chairs, I got rid of the old dining room, and I had in this set of 10 here and 5 over here, and all of the dwarves immediately piled on the chairs and just sat there reading the books, and nobody had anywhere to sit to eat the dinner. So yeah, my dwarfs got unhappy about that for a moment, because they didn't have anywhere to eat their dinner because I'd removed the old dining room. But yeah, it's really cool. The dwarfs, if you combine your dining room and your library, they sit at the table and read the books.
That's nice. And they got 40 seats now.
Yeah, so that should do. It'll keep them in enough seats
and a
for
little
the books
little weapon trap just in case.
Yeah, that was I got
It's even named mechanism.
yeah. I wanted somewhere where I could put some early weapons and a mechanism as well, an artifact mechanism, just to stop it from getting stolen. And so I put it there, because that was some of our earliest artifacts. Just put it there to somewhere where they'll pass by and admire it and make them feel happy. Heading down a level. And this is a temple. As we're getting further and further down in the fortress, the rooms become less elaborate. The temple, until yesterday, was just a patch of cavern floor that said, "Here, pray there." But at least they've got some fancy flooring now. But yeah, it's still a case of that's your temple. We've got one temple, and it's to no specific deity. Somebody has recently been appointed a sect leader, so I'm expecting a petition for that shortly. Yeah. We'll see how we get on.
Yeah, you have an active petition now, or is that just
that's for farmers guild.
Artists and stuff? Oh, farmers guild.
Yeah, we just had new migrants in. They brought a load of farmers with them, so I will deal with that. But I've left it up there so I don't forget.
The ramps are still going down on the edges nicely.
Heading down another layer. Yeah, we're getting into some of the older areas of the fortress now. And down here we've got a weaponsmith's guild and a metalsmith's guild. And this is an office. We used to have
the open floor plan.
Yeah. It gets a bit more open as we go down. We used to have a baron, but unfortunately our baron died of old age, so we're not a barony at the moment.
Oh, how old is this fortress?
It is 20 years old.
There we go. Still running.
Yeah. And it's been a small fortress for most of that time. It's only the last 2 years of the fortress that we went over 50 dwarves. So they've had a reasonably quiet life. Most people are still sleeping in a dormitory, though. 20 years in and they still haven't got bedrooms. And yeah, my poor mayor still hasn't got an office. That's a thought. Whose office is that? That's my bookkeeper. Okay, yeah, I need to get my mayor an office. We've just had a mayor voted in for the first time. So that's something I need to take care of. Heading down a bit further, and here we've got a tavern. The dwarves have got a tavern for the first time, and
I have a musical instrument in there too.
Yeah, I've got some musical instruments that I bought from dwarves and elves and people. So we've got a whole range of different musical instruments that as soon as we've got some coffers, we'll get them installed and bring them up and see if we get some dancing going. Got a barracks over here. I've got one squad that are just learning how to use their whips. We bought some whips off the humans. Then going down a little further, we have one of the earlier floors of the fortress that we developed. This is our tomb room.
That's impressive. Yeah.
The
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 casualties, maybe.
Well, these ones here, these are the pets. So
Yes.
where
Oh,
we've
there
got
we
the groupings, the yellow
Respect
coffins,
for the pets.
Yeah. That's where the pets go. The casualties so far, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If somebody dies, they get a statue. And the statue will remind me what they died of. Most of them died of... they just died of old age. Oh yeah, just withering away. Attis withered away and was dead, so he died of old age. We did get one who had a little accident and fell about 100 levels. They're kind of in bits.
It'd be interesting if every person that died of old age in real life got a statue of like their worst possible moment when they were just dying.
Yeah. So, poor Selphia is in several bits.
Hunks.
I'll show you the hole that she fell down as we get down there. So heading down another floor. Oops. And so this is just an empty floor. It's right above the trade depot. And this is a stockpile for trinkets. And what I do is, when we have a trader, I'll take the trinkets down to the trade depot. We don't actually sell them, but it gives the dwarves the excuse to then take them back to the stockpile. And if there's anything that they fancy acquiring, I've found that if they're putting something in a stockpile and they have a chest of their own, like a coffer of their own, that seems to be the thing that triggers them to grab whatever it is they fancy.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, actually. They just call I don't remember if it's called like and acquire item or something like that, the function in there. They just call it whenever they pick up or place a stored item. It's a strange thing. Strange.
Then heading down another layer, we come to... Oh, the elves are here, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the entrance to the fortress. So this is where all of the spiraling ramps end up here. The ramps I've got crusher bridges in at various stages. A couple of weapon traps at the bottom, and some bait animals in case I need to trap something in the corridor. Or if I need to coax something down the trapped corridor. So it's not foolproof. It's not Titan-proof. I haven't yet decided how we would deal with things if we got a Titan, because I haven't got a way to handle that yet.
So just whip them repeatedly.
Yeah, we might actually have to engage if something was too big to get caught, too big to be smashed, and too intelligent to get caught. Not intelligent, too crafty to get caught in a weapon trap. Yeah, not quite sure how we're going to deal with that. We might actually have to engage. So I'll just zoom out so you can see how this floor looks in its entirety. So these are the ramps down. There's a ramp down in each of the 4 helices there. And then there's a ramp that comes up as well. There's 2 ramps coming up. and I'll show you where they come from in a moment. So we figure this is going to be if there's going to be trouble in the fortress, it's going to be here. So immediately below is our hospital. I figured it was the best place for it. And this is a werebeast isolation ward. So if somebody gets bitten by a werebeast or injured, if there's a werebeast in the fortress and somebody gets injured, then I can, and they get taken to hospital, then I lock the doors so that the doctors don't get in. And then we wall them in. And if they're still alive by the end of the month, so we've actually got a little stockpile here of blocks ready to, just in case we need to act quickly. And I've actually found this works really well. It's a really good way to quarantine your potential werebeast. And this room off to the side here is in case somebody's been bitten, but they're not injured enough to go to hospital, or they were dealt with and patched up too fast and I didn't get to deal with it. I can get somebody, it's just a large enough space that I can put somebody in a squad and station them in here and lock them in and wall them in while we find out whether or not they're infected. I'm going to put another door here and use this one for the same purpose. So we've got a backup in case this one gets full. Now, quite what we'll do with them once they're walled in, I'm not sure yet. That's like tomorrow's problem. We've got soap making over here. The dwarves are enjoying their soap at the moment. It's fairly new to them.
Probably alligator soap at this point.
Yeah. And then going down. So this is bedrooms under development. We're still working on the walls. I'm putting down iron walls because we've got lots of iron, and the iron walls look so pretty. And there's plenty more iron that I can dig out if I need it. Oh, and here's the this is where the well sump starts as well. So we'll get them building some more walls in just a moment.
Is that diagonal there for the pressure purposes?
Yeah. Stop the water from flooding back through the well.
I wonder what happens if that quote bug gets fixed at some point. How many forts are suddenly going to explode?
Oh gosh, yeah. I think so many people's fortresses would explode.
Right. There's also that the building destroyer or door smashing ability of the trolls has not been put back in yet.
I mean, that one I figured. I don't rely on doors to hold back building destroyers because I figure that could be fixed at any moment.
Yeah, that one's definitely higher on the list than the diagonal pressure, which has been in there for forever.
Well, that's it. I thought the diagonal pressure was possibly a feature rather than a bug.
It is now, yeah. I mean, it's I'm not sure how you'd actually deal with that. Just some kind of floodgate system, because right now the vertical pressure works so fast that floodgates aren't practical, but it shouldn't be that way. So I'd kind of, before I fix the diagonal thing, I would also try and fix the speed of vertical water pressure, probably.
Yes, so that it can be managed as it comes down. Yeah, cool. Heading down again. So you can see these rooms are completely boxed off and they're accessed by stairs. The staircases are all on this floor, and I'll probably, we're terribly short of bedrooms, so I'll probably turn some more of this floor, like some of the extra space in this floor, into bedrooms. Then going down a bit further, we get to some more bedrooms. So we've got 30 bedrooms in all. But we've got 68 dwarves. A lot of them are new, though. Yesterday, our stream yesterday, we only had 50 dwarves. So I've just got a huge migrant wave come in. That was just as I was tidying up earlier on today. And yeah, we've been vacuuming and like dusting off the mantelpieces and things because we knew you were visiting. Heading down another layer. Oops. Empty floors. We've got a couple of empty floors here that we can do things with. And then we get into Cavern layer 1. So this is all hollow here. With some walls around the stairs to stop the dwarves falling off. And I left in a few of the cavern trees. The caverns are all walled in, and most of the cavern spaces around the edge have a guard, forgotten beast, helping to keep down the cavern critters. Although over here, over here, oh no, they're all dead. Okay. Yeah. So we've had something come in and kill them all. Didn't see what that was. And so we're into the kind of development area of the fortress now. So coming down, so you see we've still got the spiral ramps coming down here, and that's just the sand collecting. It was the lowest area where we can collect sand. But going down underneath the cavern layer, we've got this road. So we found a road running directly underneath Cavern layer 1. So it's at least at this layer. So this was the lowest layer of Cavern level 1. It appears that the road, at least on our map anyway, the road doesn't connect into Cavern layer 1. So I've put some drawbridges at the end, and we've got an emergency easy delete bit of wall if I needed to give somebody an exit. At the moment I'm working on putting down a variety of traps and things along the roads, and then we'll seal this in so that I can open up the drawbridges, and then we can have this as a normal route in and out of the fortress. So traders can leave this way. But of course, we don't know what's going to come down the road, so need to be a little bit careful about that. So to give us a bit more notice that something's walked on, so we'll put some spotter leopards up at the ends of each of the roads. The way I've worked it, each road is going to be sealed in and then goes to the far side before it starts to spiral up. So we've got this long straight bit. The yellow area is the path of the wagon, and these brown areas on the sides are free to put down traps and stuff. So that's the idea there.
It's a dangerous sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And it's the shortcut. So this is the shortest path to get up the helix. So I'm hoping that if we do get something coming through the Cavern Road, that it would come along the brown path and we can do something about it. But we'll see how we get on with that. And then heading down, so this is as far down as I've dug the tower part of the fortress. It does got a few things down further, and what we've got down here is just anytime I've got some rocks and things that I want to tidy up, we just throw them over the edge. So I've been some of these here, there's just big piles of rocks all in one place because if we wanted to tidy something up, we just throw it over the side of the tower and it ends up down here. So I've got my my workshops are just below here. I've got the stone workers and the carpenters, and in fact you can see this in action. So right here is where I've been throwing, if we've got any metal ores or we've got any coal or any metal bars that we buy from the traders, they all just get thrown down the hole, and the hole goes all the way down. You'll see as we go down there's some bits where I've just had to dig out rock. It's one thing doing a 1x1 embark, you actually run out of rock on regular occasions. especially if you want to make like floors out of specific materials or something. So yeah, this hole goes down. We get into cavern layer 2. Same thing. We've got everything sealed off. The cavern invaders here are Ulm people. But mostly we've got forgotten beasts guarding the edge for us. And then going down further. Down the hole. Oh, I've got my drinks production halfway between the surface and the magma sea. Because the dwarves are walking down these staircases quite a lot. Seemed like that'd be a good place to put it. And a crafts dwarf's workshop. So if we get someone in a strange mood who isn't a weaponsmith, because almost all of my dwarfs are weaponsmiths. Anybody else, there is a crafts dwarf workshop for them, and that's making the rock pots in case we run out as well. So then heading down, I don't think we've got anything else apart from me digging stuff out. Oh, until we get to, we've got cavern layer 3, where again forgotten beasts keeping us safe from the thing. Oh, there's a jabberer down. You're gonna have bad times. Now over here, we've got a web spitting, forgotten beast. I think. Bob, are you the web spitter? Oh no, it's the poisonous bite. Oh, so our web spitter must have been
hurt badly.
The web spitter got in fight with this guy. Or something.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh.
There's a poor Gorlak got killed too.
Yeah,
Very
poor
sad.
thing. There was a Gorlak that was living down here for the longest time. He's gone on his merry way somewhere now. Right, and then going down, not much more to see until we hit the bottom. So down here is where I've got my magma smelters and things. And under here is where we've got the magma. So the magma sea is one layer down. It turns out, it seems as though our fortress is on top of a spire. So maybe at some point we'll go digging down through there and see what we find. But yeah, we do have one staircase that we could get down through there. It could be quite interesting. Yeah. But to keep the magma crabs and things out, I put down a floor grate and then pumped this room through the floor grate so that we had some safe
Yeah,
magma.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
Very good.
And over here is the big stockpile. I've thrown a lot of the wood down here so that if we need to make charcoal, we can. Bunch of magma smelters, forges, glass making. We've got some kilns, which I haven't used yet, but we've got loads of kaolinite, so I might make some... We might do some pottery.
Porcelain. It's nice.
Yeah. And these two magma smelters over here I use specifically for melting down the materials that I don't want people to use in a strange mood. So things like copper. Over here, these magma smelters are used for iron and steel and stuff like that. And so that's the fortress.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very good. Very good.
So I'm going to... Yeah, we've got things to do. So first of all, we've got a petition for a farmers guild. So we need to go build that. I shall get on with that. That'll be somewhere upstairs. While I'm working out where to put the farmers guild, where it's got to be... I don't want it too low down because, well, it's the farmers. They're going to be mostly on the top. I suppose I could use this space here. I don't think I've got anything there. It's probably large enough for a Guildhall. We could use some microclimb blocks to... I think when I built these, we only had microclimb. What's the floor? Borax. We should have some more borax.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
So-
be too big if you can fancy it up with some
Yeah,
masterpiece statues and things.
that's it. And we've got the materials and stuff. When I built these ones, it was pretty early in the fortress's life. We didn't have much to work with. So we'll get a microclimb wall down. I'd probably need to tell them to make some more blocks. Oops, I forgot. I just rebooted. We'll have the doorway about there. And then we'll do the floor in borax. I love the way borax looks once you engrave it. It's also shiny. It's like a really dull grey when you put it down at first. Okay, so we'll go to there. I think we've got some borax. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
we have.
yeah. Funny.
Oops. Okay, that will. We should floor underneath the doors as well. All right, so we'll let them get on with that, and then I've got a few other things we need to do. But yeah, I was something that I've been wondering if you would be interested in having a talk about. I've been longing to hear the description of like when a world is generated. It goes through all of these steps where like the rocks laid down and the mountains are formed, the rivers, like it calculates where the rain shadow is going to be, and then the rivers run and
Yeah.
yeah. Do you mind just like talking to us about that?
Yeah, so yeah.
There's far more going into it that's shown, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of those. I mean, the little ticker tape just doesn't speak to it enough.
Yeah, so we have. I mean, there's like it doesn't go into like, for instance, like how the forests are actually decided upon. It's something you kind of see when you mess with the fields and stuff. But first, it just
Yeah.
lays down some fractal fields, like what is the general rainfall, what's the general temperature. There's a field we call drainage, which it's because we didn't really have anything else to work with because we don't have the specific rock types until later in the process, so we just needed something to say like how wobbly is the land, is it more hilly or not, because we don't have like really specific geological processes to work with. And then there's the elevation, so you take all four of those things and you can adjust the temperature based on the elevation. And then you get, is this a forest? Is this a swamp? Is this a grassland? From those values. And that's why you get this kind of smooth distribution that doesn't look super blocky or blobby, because it's four things interacting with each other makes it really kind of random and gradiated between them in a kind of nice way. And that's just that's the very starting point. And then you don't have any water at that point, but you do have the rainfall numbers. Yeah. So we can adjust the rain. We have, like the weather simulation takes a lot of the processing, but the wind directions are really bad right now. It's just like it goes east or it goes west in kind of these bands. Mm-hmm. And so you can kind of see like when rain goes up on the mountain, it dumps snow on one side, and then when it comes over the other side, there's no moisture left. And so that land gets dried out. And so it just does that based on the prevailing wind directions. That's why you kind of see the rain shadows kind of going east or going west.
Can you get east and west on the same world?
Yeah. There's bands. It's based on the latitude kind
Yeah.
of. Maybe not the pole settings, because I had this trouble getting that set up. And I always just wanted to scrap this anyway and make the wind directions kind of, more. I don't know because the thing is, we don't have these spherical worlds, so should we be using the cells that go in like circles and stuff? We have the ocean and the mountain breezes, but only in adventure mode on like a daily basis. So it's just kind of in a mess of like in betweenness, and we didn't want to put more CPU cycles on the weather anyway.
For something, for something invisible that
So
no one's going to see.
yeah,
Except
it's so silly.
it's raining. That's about all you
Yeah.
get.
So you get to that point, and then you know like your actual rainfall numbers throughout the world, right? And that means you're ready to know about rivers, because rivers are going to get more flow where there's more water. And so the at that point it searches for I think it still works with kind of this multi-part process where it looks at all of the mountain tops and kind of runs fake rivers like 10,000 times or something, or 1,000 or 5,000.
Right. It used to take forever because
Yeah.
there's so many rejections.
Yeah.
And it sped up a lot, but
Yeah, so we got like this fake part where it just runs simulated rivers in toward the coast, and you can always hit the coast because you go from your current square down to a lower elevation, and if there isn't a lower elevation, and this is how we get the canyons in the game, it just picks a random direction and says, okay, we're going down.
Right.
And actually decreases the elevation. So that's when you get this carving process where everything seems to shrink down, and you kind of get these grooves. And then once it's done, you run it that many times, then you know that you've got routes that can make it to the sea. Then it picks random points, kind of equidistributed, and runs them down to the sea for the actual rivers. And I think for this part I don't quite remember because when you zoom in, you see the little creeks everywhere, right, from the main rivers.
Yeah.
And I think it might run those backwards because you can't run everything down because it would take too long, and so it just kind of branches them, feathers them out backwards, maybe. That part's tricky. Then you get the actual water. What are they called? Water tables, or what are they called? The watersheds. These kind of the whole river and all of its tributaries is one thing.
Yeah.
And you get they're kind of these leaf structures, and then those are the complete world has those. What most of them are invisible until you zoom in, but we have the whole world mapped out like that. And it's only at this point, this is a little late in the process because we'd rather use the properties of the rocks, but it was something that was added later in the game, so it's not quite in the right order. But I think it's only at this point that it actually maps out the geological regions. And that part's just like a simple flood fill now. It's like all these little patches, and they're 10 deep, and it picks the minerals for each of the 10 layers. That's why your map goes through this kind of series of layers.
Yeah.
And you get the sedimentary rocks more often on the top, although occasionally it like simulates a continental drift type situation where you get like a sedimentary layer down below. And that's why that's only a recent addition for this team, really, so that you could get more like gold and other minerals deeper down, because it didn't exist before, and even iron I think was impossible to find with the mineral settings when you had everything minerals crowding everything out. It was just a mess. And
a lot of effort was put into making it easy for the Steam players.
It's such just these problems that we were kind of glossing over before. And that's kind of that gets up to that stage. Now you have a world, it's got water, it's got minerals, it's got the elevation, and the nominally has these biomes, but the biomes now get fleshed out. So it looks at all of those things I was talking about: elevation, temperature, rainfall, and then those things lead to biomes, and the biomes are there's specific categories like tropical broadleaf forest and conifer and taiga, stuff like that. But those are also broader categories, which is just, this is a forest, it has a bunch of trees, but not a lot of water like a swamp. So using the broad category, it takes the entire map and kind of flood fill, looks at its neighbors until we have all of the patches. Like, this is a glacier, this is a forest, even though it has several different biome types inside of it. It's a forest, this is a grassland / hills or whatever. We have swamps and marshes and the oceans. And then it takes those big things and it gives them names. And so now you have a forest with a name, and it gives them populations of animals, which it pulls from the list. It says, like, we need some predators, we need some large animals. We need a bunch of vermin type animals, and that match the biomes. And then it gives them population numbers, which can actually decrease. You can actually hunt animals to extinction in the tiny little places. It's difficult because there's so many animals, but
Sure.
it can be done. Especially you can fish things out, I think. Yeah, I don't recall. Anyway, so yeah, so then you get that information, and I think, unless I'm missing something, that's the point where it's like, okay, we can start history now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that I'm probably missing a few things, but
Sure.
that's
Have you had enough? That's
Oh no, I could listen to this for hours. What? When are the caverns formed in the process?
Yeah, that comes right at the in between point which we just hit, where we're in the prehistory part where it's like, where do the initial dwarves come from? Where do the initial goblins come from? And and it depends on what you mean by, because there's two types of caverns. There's like the caves, which have a little cave entrance
Yeah.
and then run kind of downward, connecting the underground. But then there's the giant underground layers. The giant underground layers are made right in the beginning.
Right.
But it has to wait for the elevation to be settled so it knows kind of how to shape them with the contours of the land.
Uh-huh.
Because you don't want I mean, it'd be cool if a canyon cut through the underground, right? The underground was kind of exposed, but right now it doesn't work that way. It pushes it below the canyon, based on the final elevations, and then you just get these kind of three strips.
Yeah.
And those are populated the same way. I think they get matched up with the geological patches. So that determines like where the forgotten beasts live and how many forgotten beasts there are, is based on these kind of that's why there's so many forgotten beasts, because you have all these kind of small geological layers that carve through each of the three underground layers, and then you get a forgotten beast for each one of those or something like that. So you get quite a few.
Cool.
I don't know. I keep forgetting because it changes. It's
Sure.
hard to
oh,
remember.
yeah. And then there's that big map rewrite coming up, so all of this will be moved.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting just as it is. What
Yeah,
about the volcanism? How does it determine where volcanoes?
Oh yeah. So there's a whole other
Yeah.
field. The whole other field. It's kind of like the savagery field that determines where the giant animals are. And during the history part, like the people generally don't move, unless they're elves, don't move into those areas. So there's another volcanism field that's just a random fractal that gets thrown throughout the map. And I think if it's greater than 95 or something like that, so it's basically 5% of the land is susceptible to having volcanoes placed in the beginning. And that happens before the history starts. But there's no new eruptions or anything. Of course, that's something we wanted to get to with the magic releases, the changing of the world. So that includes natural disasters like volcanic eruptions and stuff like that. Just being able to throw in a new volcano, which would suck for you, but that's life.
Indeed. Yeah, I found it fascinating when I was delving into the advanced settings that if I increase the amount of volcanic activity in a world, that I was reducing the amount of sedimentary rock.
Yeah.
So it was making more igneous so that I could have more volcanoes in the area. That fascinated me.
Yeah, I think when it makes the geological layers, like those 10 layers, and it's looking at the top layer and saying like, normally the top, is it the top 3 layers or something are default sedimentary, but then it looks at the volcanism thing and it says like, well, if the volcanism was high, then change it to igneous extrusive instead. I think that's what it does. And then the bottom layers are all just randomly igneous, intrusive, or metamorphic.
Yeah.
With occasional sedimentary thrown in there.
It's pretty amazing how those worlds are generated. And it wasn't until I started delving into advanced parameters that I realized the depth of the detail that the world generation goes through. So thank you so much for talking through that, because I just wanted to hear from you that process, because I'd seen what I thought happened, and it is as detailed as I thought it was.
Yeah, there's so much more you should be able to do with it, but that's for another time.
Yeah,
And we're
yeah.
of course like disappointed. Like, where's our batholiths? You know, we want to
We're already-
10 layers. We want to jam a giant granite thing up through the ground and stuff, so they can have a fort there.
We're already having kids that are grown up
Yeah.
playing Dwarf Fortress that are getting A's on their geology finals because of this stuff.
I had somebody in. Oh, I know who it was actually. It was Daztastic. Daztastic, who is. He's been a content creator with Dwarf Fortress for more than 10 years. And he was telling me in his early days of playing Dwarf Fortress, he actually secured a job as a result of playing Dwarf Fortress. He had been playing Dwarf Fortress in the morning before going to an interview. And the interview he was going for was as a contractor to develop an app. And the app was geology based. And he'd been working on something to do with aquifers in his Dwarf Fortress world. And he'd been delving into advanced parameters. And then he went into this interview later on in the day for this job as a contractor to develop the app. And it turned out he needed quite a bit of knowledge about aquifers. And so he at least knew the lingo when he went in, and he got the job. And he said it turned out to be quite a big job. He worked on that contract for, I think he said it was 5 years.
Wow.
That's even better anecdote than getting an A on your final.
Yeah, he actually secured a really good job. Yeah, that was Daztastic who was telling me about that. I just realised I'm stealing all of my microclimb blocks here. What I'm just working on here is making the walls double thick so that when we engrave them, the engravings will all belong to this Guildhall.
Oh yeah, the deeply silly directed engraving thing. It's kind of an artifact of the old adventure mode, exploring your fort. You could only see the engravings from a given direction, and we wanted to understand that, but it ended up being like a strange decision because now you can only engrave walls from one side. And that's also not a thing that has to be a permanent state of affairs, although that's an interface question, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the classic mode, making sure that like you if you want to engrave both sides, it engraves both sides. But I mean, maybe it could just be based on the rectangle you drag somehow.
Yeah, maybe.
And then you can drag an additional rectangle if you want to get the other direction, something like that. I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, indeed. As it is, I mean, I'm quite happy with the double thick walls. It's somehow it feels like if we're engraving both sides of the walls, the walls being substantial, it kind of feels right anyway to me.
Yeah, but the corners, even on your double thick walls there, like at the bottom near the doors.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you wouldn't engrave the door side necessarily. You'd want to engrave the top if you could help it. Maybe you could forbid the doors to do that while the engraving job is happening or something ridiculous. But that's all deeply silly. Here we have another one of our famous...
That's what we're here for, though.
It's a horrible Guildhall list that's in no particular order. Yes. We'll get to things.
We'll get to things. There's no rush.
We'll get to things. Oh, there is now. There is 5 months. People want a little bit of this and that, but
we're good for it. We're going to do it.
We have a lot of good progress. I mean, the
Yeah,
experimental branch is going really well. I
don't know if you've tried that yet. The experimental speeded up branch. Yeah, it's like the beginning phase of my fortresses are at 100 frames per second, and I would get up to year 3 with like over 30 dwarves, and it's still just maximum speed. I was thinking that we would have to put the FPS cap in a more prominent place because it's actually too fast to play.
Yeah, I do. Maybe because I stream. Most of my playtime I'm spending streaming, and so that people can follow what's going on, especially early in the fortress's life. I always cap it at 30 anyway. Excuse me. So that the dwarves are moving at a reasonable speed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that keeps us from doing something like that, like starting it at 25 or 30 and then just having a 2x and 4x button, is that those buttons wouldn't reliably work in the
Yeah.
in the later forts. But we're getting to the point now where we can almost do a 2x button
Cool.
and pretend that it's actually working because it is. Getting there, getting there.
Just see if we've got any more microclimb made. Not yet. I've put in an order to get them to make some more microclimb blocks, but we're getting a little low. And I've raided all of the blocks that we've got stored in the hospital to build those walls. So let's hope we don't get a weird beast in the meantime. But let's have a look. I don't think that'll be at Guildhall standards yet. No, we've got about, we're halfway there. So if we put in, I mean, I could just put a weapon trap in. That'd be the easiest way to get it over. But I think we'll get them to make something like, we'll go for a statue. Just thinking what kind of metals we've got. I'm not sure if we've got any gold. The gold and the platinum that I've got, I've been using for fancier stuff. The silver we've been using for weapons.
Exception farmers can have an iron statue or.
That's true. I'm not sure if it would bring the value up enough. Yeah.
Oh, maybe you should use your new kilns and make a clay statue. Porcelain statue. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever made a porcelain statue. That would be interesting. So if I go clay statue.
There it is. Yeah, it's that kind of reliably produce.
I'll just turn that down to 1. All right, we'll see if they go.
I don't remember enough about the Kaolinite production chains if it just takes Kaolinite.
Yeah,
right. This is another one of those moments when the lead programmer of Dwarf Fortress hits the wiki.
Yeah. So if I wanted a clay statue, have I got everything I need? Or I can apparently. I'll put in a task to do it and see whether they just take it.
Yeah, I saw the Kaolinite up there, but I don't remember what it takes.
No, it's been some time since I did any pottery. But I saw somebody's fortress, and they had made a whole load of clay floor blocks, and it looked lovely. And I was like, right, I'm doing that in future.
Yeah, what I need to do is make the dabbling potters stuff explode in the kiln sometimes.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I remember that from high school. People would just have stuff blow up all the time.
Yeah.
Get those air bubbles out of there. Oh, it's the Kaolinite.
Yeah, just Kaolinite, yeah. I think that's the elves leaving, isn't it? Yep. Okay.
Zero quality, but
yeah.
How much is it worth? You'll have to train them up.
Indeed. About 250. So we need about 4. So
that's doable.
Yeah, indeed. That's not too bad. And I've got one in as an order as well. I'll just get them to... We've got loads of Kaolinite. I'll get them to put down another 3 and we'll put those statues in upstairs. So I've been specifically not using the Kaolinite for anything except mechanisms, with them being magma safe. But other than that, I haven't used it for anything, so we've got a lot of it.
I need to make clay clay walls like in Babylon.
Yeah. Like adobe walls. But yeah, it looks the clay flooring I've seen looks really nice. So I'm actually a little bit colorblind. I don't see shades very well. I don't see the details of the shades. So I see all the primary colors, but I don't see the shades in between. And yet, with like since the Steam release and all of the graphics, I've got absolutely fascinated with what materials I'm going to build things out of to get the fancy look to the walls and the fancy look to the floors and getting the colours to match, which is something I've never bothered with before. But
Yeah, I don't know if we really foresaw that. It would just become a big part of the game.
Right, let's pop back upstairs. We know we've got one statue made already. I should really get the kaolinite thrown down there. But if I'm going to do that, I'd need to get my mechanisms made downstairs as well. Tell you what we'll do. Let's pop downstairs. Not there. There. If I'm going to throw all the kaolinite down here, I should dig out a floor for my mechanic. Is there anything else? I should put my carpenter down here as well. Excuse me. Yeah, let's get the miners digging out some space. This is how I lose all my frames, is because it's like, okay, we're big enough, I've done everything. Now let's just do another bit. just one more level. This was I can't remember if I said this is the hole that killed my my one dwarf that hasn't died of old age. Fell down this hole. And it was as we were carving something much further up in the fortress. Yeah, I'm having a chatter just nagging me to have a drink. Yeah, I'm having a drink.
I wonder what happened. He dodged a cave spider or something. Fell off the edge.
There was nothing for them to dodge. We were in a place that was pretty safe, but it's possible that it was a gelder that was collecting an animal to, because at the time I was doing a lot of gelding. That's possible that it was actually the animal that pushed them over. Because when
novice gelder can fail their skill and get attacked by the animal.
Yeah, there's quite a few of my dwarfs ended up with tattered pants. I'm just having a drink before. Death by gelding indeed. It is possible, chat just wondering whether they were actually collecting something from the pile and something fell on their head. That's...
Yeah, no, they might jump out of the way,
Yeah, it's possible. But definitely we found all of their body bits down here, so definitely something along those lines.
Yeah, no haunting. Gonna throw their tongue in the coffin and they'll be laid to rest. Even if they can't find the rest of their body.
Right. We shall go to the minecart. So here we want to add in stone. We want the...
Yeah, it's interesting that you put the statues in the crypt, because I would make the exact same setup, except I would put a slab that had the moment of death described.
Then we need to change the minecart. Say that you're also allowed to take the kaolinite. Then we'll go to the stockpile.
Actually, if you throw a tongue in a coffin, does it rot to nothing? Does
I think so. I think the body's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you achieve like putting the ghost down by throwing one part in there, even if you couldn't get the big part with the skeleton, but then the tongue rots in the coffin, do you like get back into like danger of ghost state after thinking that you were safe for a year, and then the tongue rots off? And then
It sounds like a bug that would happen. Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a bug or a feature. That's just
Yeah.
hard to know. Like, because it was a little disrespectful to throw the tongue in there
I don't
and not the rest of the body.
I don't think they do rot.
And
Because
then what are those pieces?
we've got the
Oh, that's
left upper
yeah,
leg.
and it didn't turn into a skeletal leg.
Oh yeah, don't they just sit in your refuse pile? Or maybe the refuse pile does get rid of them. I don't
I think
remember.
refuse pile rots things.
Yeah,
It's
the
a
refuse pile would.
but not the corpse. Maybe not the corpse pile. I don't know. Yeah, this is all deep lore, deep rot lore of Dwarf Fortress. We're completely clueless again. Just because that's a skeleton.
That's a
But maybe that
skeleton.
was a skeleton before it got thrown in there. But the legs didn't rot then? Well, that's weird.
No, they turn
they-
into. I'm pretty sure they turn into skeletons when you put them in there.
Yeah, so maybe that leg is a skeleton and is just calling it a leg because that's the most
Maybe.
convenient name it could find for it. If only that description button for it
Would say there was other than just it was a leg.
is a leg. Yeah, all of the item descriptions like this is a logs or whatever.
That's because I had to type them in back
Yeah.
when. There's a lot of stuff to type.
We don't like typing. We can do a better job though. I think every game on Earth has better item descriptions than we do.
Oh gosh, I think you do yourself down.
Well, we have
no,
a
no.
lot of items. I mean, those other games don't have any items.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure like our descriptions of the personalities and stuff like that. I mean, that's all very good, but the items themselves, it's like this is a sword, and it doesn't even tell you anything about it or anything.
Well, now that it's in Steam, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
That's right. So no more words. No more words. These are definitely logs. It's a stack of logs or a logs or whatever. Everything will be fine. In other words, it's gonna be great.
I'm just wondering why these dwarfs are stood around here. Let me just see. Oh, it's an armorsmith's guild. Yeah, started making armors. So.
Well, the farmer has definitely got cut in line here.
Yeah, I wanted to get them improving their armoring, so I just opened up a guild and told them they could all hang out there. So what I do when I first start my game, as soon as we've got everybody safe underground and we've got some food growing and those real basic survival things, the first social thing that I give the dwarfs is a weaponsmith's guild. So before they get a tavern or a library or a temple or anything else, they get a weaponsmith's guild. It's like, if you want to talk to somebody, go talk to them in there. And see if you can learn something while you're at it. And that way I've found that I end up with almost my entire fortress will be full of people whose primary moodable skill will be weaponsmithing. So I end up with loads of artifact weapons in the fortress. Which
Very good.
Yeah, it's a useful artifact. You can put them in a weapon trap. So I did have a situation where I was trying it out where I had both weapons and armorsmiths as my primary moodable skills, and I was churning out some artifact armor. But my number one military guy, he was an expert tactician and everything. It was like, had those really rare, good military skills. Leader of my army. I gave him a pair of artifact greaves. And then at some point, I got a notice telling me that the artifact greaves were not where they were expected to be. And somebody had stolen them, so he told us, off his very backside. a bit of interrogation, of course, turned up that I forget whether he'd been bribed or flattered or threatened or whatever, but yeah, he'd handed over his pants. So, I stopped giving artifact weapons and armor to my military dudes because it just gets them into trouble. It makes them a target of the local villains. Now, we don't have any visitors in this fortress. That was something that I was thinking, is it time? Is it time that we start allowing visitors to the fortress? We don't.
So there was a villain off-site in some other location, just kind of rubbing their hands together like, I'm going to steal that dwarf's. And they hatched a scheme and successfully brought it to fruition.
Indeed. And there's my military Jew saying, yeah, I don't know where they went. I lost them. They were around this backside somewhere. While I'm passing, I'll just put a bit of wall in. Let's see, we can do... If we do that bit there... they can reach all sides. I'll do that bit along the bottom there. This is how I end up with lots of half-built things. It's like, while I'm passing, I'll just do this bit of thing here. But it ends up with a fortress that's almost complete. I did have a scary moment yesterday when I was streaming. So I've been streaming the development of this fortress right from the start. Almost all of it's been on stream. And yesterday we had our first Weirbeast into the fort. And that was when so it was coming down if I go upstairs, it was coming down the pink tunnel, I think it was. It was heading down the pink tunnel. And so I closed all the doors, because I didn't have a military. And nobody had, no one had any armor or weapons to hand at that point. So just raised the drawbridges. And then realised I hadn't connected the road entrance drawbridge, and so of course he could just walk straight down here. And I hadn't finished building the wall. So when I was just checking, it's like, is it secure? Is it secure? Follows it down, and there was a hole in the wall. And it's like, no! Oh God, no! And so I was like, quick, run down there, patch it up. The leopards will keep it busy. I was thinking maybe it'll take him longer to get down here than it will for the full moon to finish. Maybe he won't make it down here in time because it's quite a ways for him to walk. And of course we've got the bait dogs to distract him as well. So I was panicking trying to do that. In the meantime, I hadn't noticed that one of my dwarfs had merrily walked out through the hole because one of my guard dogs had been murdered by the Weirbeast, and so he was walking up there to go and collect the bits to put in the refuse stockpile. It's like, what are you doing, you dumb dwarf? Get back inside, you fool.
Well, the most important question though is, what kind of werebeast was it?
It was a Gila werebeast. A Gila monster. Yeah, we're Gila monster. All green and red and spotty.
Yeah, the last fortress I was testing, I had a Minotaur come in through a direction that I didn't think it would, because I used the auto vein function and then just ignored it and didn't realize that he tunneled his way to the surface.
Oh dear. Something else as well that's happened in this fortress, which has made me and chat laugh as well. So I don't know if you're aware, but a while ago, must be a year ago or something. You were on I think it was just Tarn. You were on a Q&A with Blind, and I brought up the question about dwarven underwear. That was me. And the fact that dwarves weren't able to make underwear. But they could wear goblin underwear and they could wear elf underwear, and so if someone died in your fortress, you ended up with this problem where they get unhappy because their underwear had dropped off.
Oh, I was there. Yes, I remember.
Were you there as well? yeah, that was me. Underwear had become the bane of my life. Well, in this fortress, I think about 5 years ago in the life of the fortress, a trade wagon had an accident on the surface. I think it had a run-in with some water buffaloes or something. And one of the things that it dropped was a pair of kangaroo leather knickers. And so as soon as I'd seen that there was a problem and that the wagon had been destroyed, I went through the list of things that had been dropped in the pile and just forbid all of the clothing items that I didn't want the dwarfs to wear. So all the mittens, because none of my dwarfs got mittens, and I don't want to be making mittens. So like the mittens, the cloaks, the underwear, forbid it all. And then it was the following year, I think it was, because that was a dwarven caravan. It was the next human caravan to appear. It was like, right, go get all of that stuff that the dwarfs dropped and bring it down to the trade depot and we'll sell it off to the humans and we'll be good. But I miscalculated. So with my trade depot, I have a tendency to kind of use it like a quantum stockpile. If there's anything that I want the dwarves to move from somewhere else in the fortress that they've been a little bit slacking with, I get them to drag it to the trade depot. So the trade depot is full of stuff. And most of this is just me cleaning up the fortress. It's like, can you move those bins? Can you move the bins? Can you move the bins? Will someone move the bins? Oh, just there's a trader here, move the bins to the depot. Right, okay, they're out the way now. So yeah, I end up with a trade depot that's full of stuff, so like all those logs as well. And because there was all the stuff on the surface from the wagon, I was like, right, bring those clothes down. We'll get those sold to the humans, and then we don't need to worry about like the mittens and cloaks and things. But I was like, they were getting stolen. Like the stuff was getting stolen by Keers. So I thought, well, we might as well haul in the rest of the stuff as well. So I told the dwarfs to start hauling all of the stuff down. The thing is, to get on the surface, to get all the stuff from the wagons, it's quite a long way for them to walk. And I miscalculated, so they were still hauling stuff down by the time the traders decided to leave. And it just so happened that the moment, because I was like, the moment the traders said they were leaving, I was like, uh-oh, I didn't trade. That means that we've got all of those items of clothing are now free for anyone to grab. Well, I looked in the trade depot and I found the mittens and the cloak, and there was another item of clothing as well, but the underwear wasn't there. the kangaroo leather knickers were not there, and I was like, uh-oh, who's got them? And sure enough, one of my dwarfs, who must have been carrying it to the trade depot at the time, the moment those knickers became available, he's like, hey, look at my fancy pants. And so, yeah, all of my dwarfs are now wearing leather knickers. Because, you know, one of them's got them, they all want them. And I've saved those original chat request. I saved those original kangaroo leather knickers. We were going to put them on a pedestal somewhere. Where would be an appropriate place? Somewhere where I've already decorated the center, I think.
Could put it in the temple.
The temple, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's get... I haven't got a pedestal made, so we'll need to make a pedestal. I've become really lazy about just constantly using the orders instead of going down to the correct workshop. It's like, oh, I'll just stick an order in for one.
Yeah, that's by design. So
oh, is it? That's how I'm supposed... Hey, look at me doing it the way I'm supposed to do it. Let's see, we've got some... Let's use some brimstone. I'm not using the brimstone for anything else. That's a nice, interesting coloured pedestal. Yeah, we'll get a pedestal made and we'll install it in the centre of the temple. And we'll put the kangaroo leather pants on there. The Temple of the Forbidden Knickers, says Chap. Kangaroo knickers are the way, the truth, and the light. But yeah, it was funny that because this fortress, I knew I was making this fortress that you guys were gonna see it and tour it. It was like the fact that we ended up having an underwear problem was just ironic. Right, let's see what's going on in the rest of the place and what else we need to be doing. I think everything up here is fine. Who stole God's knickers? It was Oak Tree Galactic. You could make a religion out of this, indeed. Oh, I wonder if we've got the microcline to... I've been talking with the game on pause, so I doubt if we have. Yeah, I'm guilty of playing Pause Fortress an awful lot. I wonder if we've got the chests made. I should check that. Let me see. Do we have any coffers? So I was going to put the musical instruments. No, I think it was only recently I put the order in for those. Oh, is somebody singing? What are you doing? You are? Okay, We've got some sort of musical thing going on. And Incognito's performing a dance. Oh, we've got to have a look at this. I'd love especially the dances. They amuse me no end. Let's just see. It was Incognito that was doing the dance. Let's have a look at your dance. So if we have a look through the dance, the thing that particularly grabs my attention is when we start seeing the body movements.
Fluid and proud. Graceful spins.
Yeah. So the dance is accompanied by any composition of the Venerable Wisp. The dancers perform in several lines, moving slower and slower to the music's emoth rhythm. The entire dance has a basic movement called the Tarmid. There's a series of 2 undulating steps in a triangle pattern with a leftward bend performed in retrograde by group members. It's fabulous. It just makes me want to try. The dance is passive. Let's see, are there any other... Oh yeah, here we go. So the dance begins with the first theme of the music. This section is fluid and proud. Then it enters a new section with the exposition of the first theme of the music. This section is punctuated by graceful spins. It then enters a section of bridge passage of the music. This section is punctuated by independent body movements and counterclockwise quarter turns. And then we enter a new section with the second theme of the music. This section is powerful, so a powerful dance.
Yeah, well, it's using the original thing where they're doing these undulating steps.
Yeah.
That's kind of the basis of all of it. So the undulating steps become more powerful. This
Yeah.
pattern with their retrograde, whatever, it's leftward.
Indeed.
Yes.
So kind of a bit stompy, maybe. Very forceful with the dance.
Yeah, during the second theme, the second theme stomp, they call it.
Yeah. And then we get into, with the exposition of the second theme of the music, this section is punctuated by leaps performed in retrograde by
Retrograde leaps.
Oh my. That sounds like capoeira. And then we enter into a new section with the synthesis of the music. This section is punctuated by calm footwork and spins. So calm spins, calm footwork spins. That's amazing. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, and the D-leth there does the main melody of the music.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Is that the one they were simulating? So they're
It
simulating
was.
the main melody, so they're just going and the other person is dancing for them. So that's great.
Yeah, the beatboxing it. It's fabulous. Now, it might be that we've got the musical instruments that they need. It's just that I haven't brought them up here. They're all down in the trade depot.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone play an instrument. It's just so hard to get it all to come together.
I love watching it when they... have we got another one joining the dance? What are you guys doing? I bet they're watching the dance. Yeah, they're watching the dance.
Look at this fool.
Yeah, look at them stomp and spin, stomping and spinning, and doing all these retrograde flips.
But they're supposed to be doing it in... It's like a line dance, but nobody else is joining in. It's just incognito. Go for it, incognito. I once saw the full 10 by 10 square dance. Yeah, when you see them forming like the big patterns where either they are in the rows or they are in the big square. It's like, oh, look what they're doing. Yeah, it's funny how fascinating these little things are.
Yeah, it's funny. That was like we had one of the very first dwarf meetups in Seattle. One of the people there requested that we do something with like dancing and instruments. We had nothing. We just had the instruments were there.
I don't even know if we had those. Yeah, it was like 2007, right? It was so
it was a long time ago. Like nothing was going on in the
tavern. We finally got to it many years later, and we don't even know if they still play the game. Such a long time ago.
Oh, we got another one starting. Oh, Incognito's dancing again. But Vaybox joined this time.
Oh, very good.
And Noma.
So they're kind of loosely in the lines there. Maybe if it's the same dance, maybe it's even the same dance.
Let's find out. Let's see. Well, we know Incognito's one of them. I mean, this is one of the favourite bits. Oh no!
Yeah, this is the same.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. The Chartreuse Berry.
So they're doing their best lines you can do with 3 people, I guess.
Indeed.
If you need multiple lines. So like
I think you would need 3 people to make a line, right?
Yeah. So it looks like we've got 2 lines with one of them has one person. Because the dance requests several lines. Maybe it's more important to have one person in a one-person line than it is to have 3 people on one line. So they can flip at each other or do some kind of retrograde thing.
I thought that was someone coming to join. This is the first time I've seen them dance in this fortress. Oh, are you coming to join? No, you walked across. Oh, you're watching.
Up.
Oh, there we go.
Up.
Dance over, there we go. Maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe are they in the socialized behavior now while they decide the next thing to do?
Reciting some poetry.
Oh, straight to the poem.
Indeed. Let's see. Yeah, you're listening to the poem. Let's just have a quick look at sorry, I love this stuff.
Well, that's important. That's the point of the game. Yeah, no,
we wouldn't have written this stuff if it wasn't important.
Yeah,
the game for sure.
Reciting poetry. It's Incognito again.
Creative soul.
Let's have a look. This is a really short poem. The performance is at the first line at the moment. The poem's called Learning. It's an example of the Tomb of Oblivion. It's got no particular subject. It's not awful, but it's not very good either. Yeah, I've watched some poetic performances like that. The Tomb of Oblivion is a solemn poetic form concerning death, originating in the East Isles. The East Isles is our civilization. And the rules of the form are applied by poets to produce individual poems which can be recited. It's got a single tercet. The third line of the tercet has the same grammatical structure as the second line. The first line is intended to make an assertion. It has 4 feet with an accent pattern of the stressed, unstressed, unstressed, qualitative, dactylic tetrameter. This is now getting deeper. It's like I can understand retrograde spins, but this is getting deeper into poetry than I'm that familiar with. But yeah, love the. I love looking at what the works about, what the and how detailed some of the poems are as well. And the other thing that I would class as like one of my favourite things in a game is the books.
Yes.
Yeah, books are very amusing.
My library is very well appointed. We've got I buy every book I can get my hands on. More asses, hairy beasts. Concerns the study of the human, asses, hairy beasts. The unfortunately named. Okay.
It's like the writing is completely serious.
Are you sure?
Good job. Good job.
That was not a plant. I was just wondering if we had something that was going to catch my attention.
Hopefully no Necromancer books.
Oh, I found actually, I did a fortress where we managed to get our hands on Secrets of Life and Death pretty early in the fortress's life. And I forced everybody to spend time in the library, so we ended up with an entire fortress full of necromancers. I think there was only... It was a big fortress as well. There was, I don't know, maybe 200, 250 dwarfs. And there was only 10 of them that I couldn't get to read the book. Everybody else turned into a necromancer. And I discovered that if you've got one necromancer in your army, that's a problem, because they're going to keep on raising the enemy back up and like farming their own XP, and of course the enemy that they raise will be tougher than the original one that they killed. So having one necromancer in your army is really dangerous. But if you've got an entire army of necromancers, it swings completely the other way, because when one of their comrades fall, they raise them back again. And if they fall, one of their comrades will raise them back again. And of course, they're tougher once they're an undead necromancer, because they don't get tired, they don't feel pain, they don't die as easy. They're undead, so you can't kill them in the same way. They don't suffer from being stabbed. They've got to be slashed or crushed to kill their bits. I had some fun, but I did end up in a bit of trouble, because I had an earlier version of my quarantine hospital set up. So at that point, I'd figured out that if you get werebeasts, the injured people are going to be taken to the hospital, and if you have walls surrounding the beds in these little wards, then if you've got an injured person, what you do is you just wall them in and then find out whether or not they're werebeasts afterwards. It's like an injured person can usually last a month to find out whether or not they're infected. But I hadn't come up with the door thing, so I'd had a werebeast turn, I think it was a visitor in the tavern. So it was right in the heart of the fortress. Or it was the liaison or somebody like that. Someone had turned in the middle of the fortress. And it had, so the outbreak had happened where there was a load of people, and 5 of my people got bitten. So they'd been taken down to the hospital, and I'm trying to wall them in. Well, the doctors are trying to treat them. And because they're getting treated faster than I can wall them in, half of them are walking off. So I'm trying to get the ones that have walked off to get back down to the hospital, and I'm trying to get them to stand somewhere where I can wall them in. And meanwhile, one of my doctors managed to get walled in with the suspect. and this was oak tree again. Funny how this happens. It's usually oak tree. It was oak tree who got the kangaroo knickers in this fortress. It was oak tree that time who was the doctor who got walled in with the werebeast. So oak tree was a necromancer, and the guy who was bitten by the werebeast was also a necromancer, because this is the necromancer fortress. And so the werebeast turns, and there was also oak tree was carrying a baby, or the werebeast was carrying a baby. I forget which. There was 3 of them all walled in. The baby got killed immediately, I think, and then a fight broke out between the werebeast and oak tree, the doctor, and oak tree got killed. And then when the werebeast turned back into a normal person, the necromancer got scared and raised oak tree back from the dead again. And then they started scrapping with each other again. And so they were killing each other and bringing each other back, and killing each other and bringing each other back. And then eventually oak tree's head, well, actually it was his neck, was severed. So you had these 3 bits of oak tree that the necromancer werebeast brought back to life. But oak tree's neck turned out to be the really deadly bit, because oak tree's neck was able to shoot lightning bolts. Well, it was freeze bolts. And oak tree's neck killed the werebeast. And I thought what we tried to do is put some fortifications, and I don't like to attack our own people while they're in werebeast form or undead form, because you never know when you're going to cause some sort of civil war as a result of attacking your own people. But we had a tavern right nearby, and I thought if I could coax some visitors to come in, we had some visitors with crossbows. I thought I could, maybe if I could lock some visitors into the hospital with crossbows, and then if anybody gets into trouble for shooting Oak Street's neck, it'll be them. So I got them into the hospital, and we carved some fortifications in the wall. Well, Oak Tree's neck was shooting these freeze bolts straight through the fortifications and killed the visitor. And it was, unfortunately, the way that the cell that Oak Tree's neck was in, it was as if it was, say, this bed here, and it was walled in here, and I carved the fortifications in the front, so Oak Tree's neck could shoot the bolts right the way out into the corridor. So yeah, I ended up having to wall in a big portion of the hospital. And that's it. Oak Tree's neck's still there to this day. But yeah, you can have fun with necromancers. Oh, but another story I've got about books, and this one's quite a sad one. I was looking at the books that we got from that a merchant came in with some books, and there was a book called The Sorrows of Marriage, and it had about 3 chapters to it or something. It was all about the guy who was the author talking. Like, chapter 1 was about him meeting his wife, and chapter 2 was about their life together or something like that, and chapter 3 was about his return to his hillocks. So I was fascinated, so I went into Legends and had to dig around in Legends to find out about this guy who wrote the book. This is Groovy's favourite story. And it turns out the interesting story wasn't so much about the author, it was about the author's wife. So the author's wife had been kidnapped, and this was all 100 years before my fortress had started. The author's wife, at the age of 3, had been kidnapped from her hillocks, by a bunch of goblins, and she'd grown up in a dark fortress where she'd been brought into goblin society, and she'd developed a career as a criminal or something like that. But yeah, she fully fully absorbed herself into goblin society. And she met somebody who was also a dwarf who had been kidnapped by goblins and was living in the same fortress. And they got married. But their marriage obviously wasn't very happy because about a year later, she murdered him. And so time goes on. She meets this new guy and they fall in love. They get married, or they're planning their marriage. And then but it was on the day of their wedding. They're at the altar getting married when the brother of her first husband comes and exacts his revenge and murders her at the altar. And so her new widow, who was just married because this happened on the same day that they were married. So her widow who was also a dwarf, had been kidnapped by the goblins and grown up in goblin society. He must have been so heartbroken by all of this that he left the goblin dark fortress, ran away, went back to the hillocks where he'd grown up, where he sat down and wrote this autobiography called The Sorrows of Marriage. And it's like, whoa, that's really deep. It's amazing. We were uncovering all of this on stream as well, so it was like, whoa. We had tears in chat.
Yeah, what we really got to do, like one of the plans we had was to put a way to get to Legends mode from Dwarf mode. That was one of our plans, though.
Yeah.
It's not too hard to do now.
Yeah.
And we're kind of glossing over the fact that you can find vampires that way, but I mean, if the player's investigating to that extent,
you
it's
get
not a big deal.
then maybe someone with no inclination to read Legends mode would try to find vampires that way and then come across a story like that.
Yeah, indeed.
That'd be good. Yeah.
I mean, so this is in classic days. So before the Steam release, I would always have an XML file that I'd imported into Legends Viewer, and I'd have that open at the same time. And it wasn't for finding. Actually, even if I found the vampire, it wasn't so much, oh, there's a vampire, let's wall it up. It was, oh, look, we got a vampire. What's their family history? Who are they related to? Loved looking through the family trees of which of my dwarfs are related. Who's got the lover whose ex-wife is also in the fortress, and like the scandal and the family soap operas that you get going on that you find. I mean, there's so much going on at that sort of family soap opera level that isn't immediately apparent until you start digging into Legends and just looking at the relationships between them. And who met whom and when, and how come you've got two lovers but you're here with your wife, and didn't you move here with your lover and now your wife's turned up? Is that a bad thing?
A lot of goes into those little green and red smiley faces.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. But I found. Oh yeah, Legends within Fortress and Adventure becomes a thing, says Kleinadev. Yeah, I found that I mean, I've been playing Dwarf Fortress for many years, and I don't know, somewhere in the 10,000 hours, something like that. And I thought I understood the depth of the game, but it wasn't until I was playing Fortress mode and Adventure mode and Legends and combining them all into one story that it was the real richness of the game came to me. And this happened with a place called Painted Road. I was looking for somewhere. I wanted to embark in an evil area. And so I was having a mooch around the world map looking for somewhere evil to set up. I don't often play evil areas because my favourite thing is keeping dwarfs happy. I like happy dwarfs and like how you manage their stresses and how you flood their thoughts with happy memories and all of that sort of thing. But yeah, this one time I thought we're going into an evil area. And as I was mooching around on the world map looking for where I wanted to embark, I spotted that there was a ruin that we could reclaim, that was in an evil area. I thought, that's unusual because dwarfs don't build fortresses in an evil area. So obviously they've set up a fortress and it's become evil later. And so I had to look in the surrounding countryside to see, well, where's that evil come from? Is there a tower nearby? And there wasn't. Is there any goblins nearby? And there wasn't. And the evil seemed to be spreading out from the fortress. And I thought, this is interesting. And I decided it was so intriguing. I decided I didn't even want to know. So I was sort of shielding my eyes from the information about what was there last and when it fell, and you get a little bit of information with a ruin when you go to reclaim a ruin. I was shielding my eyes from that, and so I took an embark. I thought, we'll go and explore and see what we find there, and I thought we might run into some trouble, so I put together a military weighted embark with, we took weapons, we took armor. I was good to go. We invested my points into some good fighting skills, and we didn't last the first day. The part of it was the way that the fortress was set up was unfortunate. The wagon had landed inside the fortress. The topography meant that it was difficult. Half the dwarfs were outside, half the dwarfs were inside. The door was all the way around the other side, and yeah, it was full of necromancers' experiments. Excuse me. Just have a quick sip of my water. But now that I'd seen what was there, I thought, now I want to know. Now I want to know the story of this place. And so I went into Legends mode to have a look at the story of this town, this fortress. And it started off in... So we'd gone there in the year 500, I think. It'd been founded in the year 79. The original leader of the expedition that had founded the town wasn't... her story in itself was fascinating, because she'd been voted as the mayor, and then, but she had an ambition to rule the world, and so obviously running this town, the fortress was called Painted Road. Running Painted Road just wasn't enough for her, and she had started a bunch of intrigue. She ended up setting off back to the mountain home, taking an army with her. And she plotted a coup back there and overthrew the monarchy. She became the new queen, and she was a proper tyrant as well. So that was the. So of course another mayor took over. Painted Road carried on running. But the first thing that happened to Painted Road was there was a necromancer somewhere who they become obsessed with their own mortality. They'd managed to get themselves a position as an apprentice to a necromancer, learnt the secrets of life and death, followed their master to a town somewhere, and and then they'd raised suspicion because they hadn't aged and they'd been chased out, and they got really upset about that. And so they formed a grudge. And started, built themselves a tower out in the jungles of Severity, and after some while, they built themselves up an army, waged this enormous war, and it wasn't until they went and they conquered Painted Road as just sort of one of the bystander towns. Painted Road didn't have anything to do with the Necromancer, but it was part of the same civilization that the Necromancer was angry with. And so this war had raged on, and the Necromancer was causing all kinds of trouble. It was a human group who had eventually dealt with the Necromancer and destroyed their tower. A group of elves who came and cleaned the Necromancers out of Painted Road. So that was the second conquest of Painted Road, was when the elves cleaned out the Necromancer who had taken over. But then there was a third conquest of Painted Road, which was a similar sort of story. There was some nuances to the differences, but it was another bunch of necromancers. It was about 100 years later. Another necromancer army had been passing through and had come and colonized, like kicked out the original, like the dwarves had taken it back, and then the necromancers had kicked them out. There'd been a big war, and then the humans came. Same group of humans dealt with the same sort of thing. Dealt with that necromancer tower. Then the elves came and cleaned the necromancers' experiments out of Painted Road, and the elves took it over. But this time the elves stayed, and they ran an elf fortress. And the elf mayor was actually a really good mayor. So it was the best time in Painted Road's history. The town flourished. It was mostly dwarves living there. There was some elves, there was some humans. Some of the necromancer experiments had stayed on. The lieutenants and some of the intelligent undead had moved in. And their captain of the guard was a vampire. It was a very eclectic place. And and it just thrived. They built the market, they built the tavern. There was all these things. Loads of temples started popping up, and it's like it was a really happy time in Painted Road's history. But sure enough, there was a third necromancer, like some way down the line. So we're a couple of 100 years further on now, and a third necromancer came, and there was a big battle, and the necromancer won again, and the mayor and a bunch of dwarves and I think a couple of elves managed to survive the war, and they left and went out into the jungle of Severity as refugees. And so that's where it had been left. The war had happened. The necromancer hadn't claimed the fortress, but he passed through and left some. Like there were some stragglers behind while that necromancer went on his way. I think that necromancer ended up being killed by drowning or something. The necromancer had been killed. He'd been captured and killed by the humans, but there was some bits of his army left behind. And so Painted Road was in ruin. So having read through the history of Painted Road and knowing now what I was going to be facing up against, I got an adventure party together. And headed out to Painted Road, and I actually put some intelligent undead in my own adventure party as well, so give us a bit of a chance. But it turned out that actually it was the yaks. I took some yaks with me, and the yaks were they were the MVP of the team. The yaks are so tough; they're such good fighters. And so I couldn't just start at Painted Road, of course. I had to start at a settlement that was related to one of the team that were coming out with me. So we started off as close as I could get to Painted Road, and we were wandering through the jungles of Severity. And all of these places, we actually walked past the ruins of one of the towers of the Necromancer that had attacked Painted Road in its previous history. And it was just amazing to actually go and in third person mode sort of live through the stories that I've been reading about in Legends. But yeah, my adventure party did make it to Painted Road and cleared out the necromancer experiments there, and then I sent out another band of 7 dwarfs to go and reclaim the ruin, and we succeeded the second time. It was, but yeah, just that thing about knowing the history of the place that we were going to and all of the stories, and wondering if I was going to bump into this elf mare that was still wandering around in the jungles of Severity as we were going. Yeah, that was just where I really understood the true richness of Dwarf Fortress. It was amazing. And this is me playing Paws Fortress. Sitting telling stories.
Yeah, I noticed it was it year 270 when we started? It's mid-spring, so maybe we played a few days today.
That's how it goes. I shall put in some more walls. While we're passing, I've forgotten what I was doing now as well. Let's see, we can get some walls in there.
Let's see. Should we time out?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go.
Yeah, no, it's been
around
great
4
having
o'clock,
you.
I think.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. That's a great story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We need to spread the word.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Like when adventure mode comes out, everything is going to be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. I mean, you've been here longer than we expect. Oh my gosh, yes, we've been an hour longer than I expected. Yeah. Well,
That's
thank
great
you
though.
so...
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Yes, we're all looking forward to adventure mode indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We need to get. We're officially getting started on that. We have to now. We have our.
And we got the Foley crew getting ready.
Yeah. The audio people are gearing up now. So time to make walking
some
through mud noises.
Experiments with the artist.
Yep.
That's revving up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Just
day.
I don't even have to build it up. That story is enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and just before we go, can you talk about the merch?
Yes. So the fan gamer dwarfy stuff is finally going to be available on the 16th of this month. That would be May 16th. There's the T-shirt and
The
metal T-shirt and the metal pin and the it's not metal but it's spiritually metal.
Heavy metal.
The heavy metal mug that's made out of glass possibly, but it's not.
Who knows how heavy it is?
Yeah,
but it's heavy metal.
It's heavy conceptually. It's got a giant fortress on it that you can look at. So 8 days, and we expect Kit Fox people to show some of that stuff off, so you guys can get a chance to see it. Y'all can get a chance to see it. And after all these years, people asking us for T-shirts for it must have been 17 years. People asking for T-shirts,
and to put it on Steam too.
Yeah,
the Steam was around back then. I don't even know.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't keep track. It's been a long time. But so that's all finally. It's all finally coming together there, and we'll get
very exciting.
Yes. Yeah,
marvelous.
It's intense times.
Right, well, I shall... I'm just going to go off camera. Right, chat, I shall be right back, and while we just sign off. And so thank you for joining me, Tarn and Zach. And chat, I'll be back with you in just a moment. right, chat. Just wanted to say a proper goodbye to you all. Yes, happy 10th Kitterfox anniversary, everybody. Indeed. Yes, it is Kitfox's anniversary. And I believe the 10% discount on Dwarf Fortress is still live at the moment. I think Alexandra can tell me for sure. And yes, the VODs for the development of the fortress from scratch right the way through to now. All of the VODs are available right from the very start. You'll find them as highlights on the Kitfox channel. Till May the 11th, indeed. And but yes, let's go and pass on the raid to somebody. We'll go find somebody else who's playing Dwarf Fortress. Oh, how about Tekard? We like a bit of Tekard. Tekard has joined us on stream before. So we've raided RNG quite recently, so I don't think we've had a chance to raid Tekard before. Am I streaming later? No, because I've got some work to do, unfortunately. So it won't be until tomorrow. I'll be on my own channel tomorrow. But thank you for watching, everybody. It's been a load of fun. We'll go and Tekard's forts are great. So let's go say hello to Tekard. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.